Bill Jones with recapturefederalism.com. Recapturefederalism.com. Recapture Federalist Papers 51. And going to talk about communism again. By the way, this one's for Carol specifically, and anybody else. The title is Not a Constitutional Originalist? Treason. Notice of Treason, Episode 8. About communism again. Got 130 on my site, videos, varying ways, on YouTube. 130 of them since April of 2013. And this is another one. And since this is for Carol, this is an introductory type of video. And I start out always starting out by oath. I, William R. Jones, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, so help me God. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I took that oath. First time I took the oath. July 1965. The enemy then was communism, as it is now. It's been the enemy of the Constitution for a long time. And that's what we're going to get into today, because we're going to talk about being an originalist. The history of the oath, military oaths, and also official oaths, go back. And the first oath was voted on 14th June 1775 as part of the act creating the Continental Army, and read, I, state your name, have this day voluntarily enlisted as a soldier in the American Continental Army for 1 year unless sooner discharged, and I do bind myself to conform in all instances to such rules and regulations as are and shall be established by the government of the said army. No constitution yet. No constitutions, state constitutions yet either. Okay? And there would be state constitutions before there would be federal constitutions. Then the original wording was effectively replaced by Section 3, Article 1 of the Articles of War, approved by Congress 20 September 1776, which specified that the oath of enlistment read, I swear to be true to the United States of America and to serve them honestly and faithfully against all their enemies, opposers whatsoever, and to observe and obey the orders of the Continental Congress and the orders of the generals and the orders set over me by them. 17, we didn't have a president. We didn't have a president. We had generals. We were at war. And it's interesting, I just realized this, 20 September 1776. No, we have July 4th, 1776 is the Declaration of Independence. So it's a couple months later. Also a couple months later, in September 28th, there were constitutions being written before July 4th and after July 4th. And the one that specifically comes to mind is September 28th, 1776. It's the Constitution of the Republic, state, declared states, July 4th. Republic, state, there would just be state constitutions until the Constitution was approved. In 1788, we had the Articles of Confederation. And Federalist 51, we still have a confederation of 50 states now, all with state constitutions and a federal constitution. We're a compound republic, not a democracy. Not a democracy. Okay? Not a democracy. And this is where we get into problems. And where treason started. Constitutional Convention of Pennsylvania, and they came out September 28, 1776, and they had Declaration of Rights of the inhabitants of the Commonwealth or State of Pennsylvania. And they had a right to bear arms. Okay? Right to bear arms. All the state constitutions before the federal constitution had state right to bear arms. That's why there doesn't exist in the original base Constitution the right to bear arms. It came with the Bill of Rights in 1791. But we're talking 1776. And on number 3 down here, that the people of this state shall have the sole, exclusive, and inherent right of governing and regulating the internal police of the same. That's the inherent rights. Inherent rights. No FBI, no ATF, no Department of Homeland Security. All the policing was states. The states. The states. And that's the original intent of the framers when they came out with the Constitution. When they came out with the Constitution. This idea, and then the 10th Amendment, which they violate, treasonous acts. We then had George Washington, and the story of George Washington, he was done with government. He was going back to Virginia, back to the plantation. He was done with government. People do what you want to do. And there was conflict. And the founders and framers said, we need you, George. We need you bad to be president and get this ball on the road here. We need you to be president. And they talked him into becoming president. He was elected president. And I found out just recently doing some research, I know a lot about communism and government, and I've done a lot, 55 years, been anti-communist. Oh, I know all about communism. I know all about it. But I don't know everything. And I just did some research on the farewell address, which I have in my books. And I don't want to get into that right now. But he wrote the farewell address. Originally, he was just going to be president for 4 years. And his vice president was John Adams. John Adams had started and belonged to the Federalist Party, political party. So George Washington, in his farewell address that he wrote originally at the end of the conclusion of his first 4 years, he then extended that, didn't come out with the address, ran for re-election a second time because he didn't want somebody coming in with a political party. He writes in the farewell address, about 6 or 7 paragraphs about the deficiency of political parties in a free society. Also, James Madison writes about it in Federalist 51. When I went back to college in early 1990s, political science, administration, public administration, I should say. I had a great professor by the name of Carl Stover at Governor State University. Two things that hit me was the first night we were there, a constitutional law class. Introduced himself, and then he started getting into it. And he starts talking about demons and the 7 deadly sins, and that's the reason for the Constitution. Right. And he also said that it was divine interpretations. I view it as the divine will of God. He probably couldn't say that. May have meant it, but couldn't say it. Because PC, you know. And the other thing we talked about Federalist Paper 51. He said the most important Federalist paper of the 85 or 87, depends how you want to count them. The most important was 51, and I agree with that. Again, they talk about compound republics, confederacy, no political parties. And John Adams was elected after George Washington completed 8 years. He would have never, if he ran third term, would have never completed it. He ended up dying in 1799. 1797, John Adams runs for president and is elected president and serves till 1801. The last day in office, he appoints some justices, a whole bunch of them, 40-something. The last day in office. It's interesting, isn't it? With the justices dying and they're talking about, oh, can't do this, can't do that. Similar thing. And he had, during his term, he had appointed John Marshall, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Jefferson comes in, third president. He doesn't recognize him. And so it goes into court. They say, you got to recognize it. We determine, the Supreme Court determines what the laws are. John Marshall said that. John Marshall said that. It was a treasonable decision. It was a political decision, a political party supremacy decision, because John Adams had introduced political parties into the system. And George Washington, in his farewell address, said, it's up to the people to decide that. You need an amendment to have political parties and governing by political parties because they're so bad in a free society. In a free society, you also need morality and religion. You can't have morality without religion. And what do we have over these years? Separation of church and state, which is a communist demand, 1848, of the German government. It's part of the disappearing of religion in the Communist Manifesto. Put this up. A lot of my be a thumbnail of this. You'll see it. That's the silent, secret American insurrection and revolutionary movement. Yeah. I developed that over the last couple of years. Probably a couple of years ago. Once I developed it, I didn't even change it because it talks about the Holy Bible and hate and love, and the two classes that we have here. We're not supposed to have any classes. Equal protection of the law. That's the original. But we got enemies of the Constitution. That's why you take the oath. They take oaths. They don't follow their oaths. But anyway, the Holy Bible, Romans chapter 13, a free federal system of America, is a free citizens class. And then there's communism, which is a communist criminal class. And that's what we have. We have class warfare. And of course, communists are committing treason. Now, we have, back in 1860, as the country is moving forward, the Federalist Party was in, then the Democrat-Republican Party was in, then there were Whigs, and then there was the Republican Party in 1860. Started before that, but Lincoln was voted in 1860. There was a platform, Democratic Party, 1860. I need to find that. Hang on one. Yeah, found it. Had to go into my book here. Democratic Party platform, June 18th, 1860. It started in 1856, but then they rewrote it and republished it in 1860. And they said, resolved that we, the democracy of the Union and Convention, democracy, Union, and we're not a democracy. The Originalist, which I am one of, all military are, because the oath goes back to the original. But people want to be the communist criminal class, the political party supremacy, political totalitarianism, political totalism, wants it to be a democracy of a Union Convention. And they have declared as the platform principles by a Democratic Convention in Cincinnati. That's Cincinnati. In the year 1856. Believing, this is how they're governing it, believing the democratic principles are unchangeable in their nature. We're a compound republic. We're not supposed to have parties running things. Democratic parties, Republican parties who are acting like Democrats. Republican principles. That's the federal system of America, Republican principles of America. It's Federalist 51. Now I said George Washington wrote in his farewell address about morality and religion. And the communists come up 1848, 1847, with the 1847 came up with the Communist Confession of Faith. Engels and Marx were atheists. And they come out. Communist Manifesto, built off of the Communist Confession of Faith, the principles of communism. And in the Communist Manifesto, they say there are, besides, eternal truths such as freedom, justice, etc., that are common to all states of society. But communism abolishes the eternal truth. It abolishes all religion and all morality, instead of constituting them on a new basis that therefore acts in contradiction to all past historical experience. Poof. Poof. Anti-Semitic, anti-Christian, all peaceful religions. Religious freedom does not exist under a communist society. Okay? Communism abolishes eternal truth. It abolishes all religion and all morality. And it further says, finally, they labor everywhere for the union and agreement of the democratic parties. By the way, that was page 26, and now I'm reading page 34 of the Communist Manifesto. Finally, they labor everywhere for the union and agreement of democratic parties of all countries. Unions, democratic parties. Finally, they labor everywhere for the union and agreement of the democratic parties of all countries. And it continues. The communists disdain to conceal their views and aims. They openly declare that their ends can be attained only by the forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions. Let the ruling classes tremble at the communistic revolution. The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. Working men of all countries unite. And they united on May 4th, 1886 in Chicago, Haymarket Square, killing 7 cops with a dynamite bomb. That's when the insurrection started, and it continues today. Because they can be attained only by the forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions. Let the ruling classes tremble at the communist revolution. Who's the ruling class in the United States? We the people. Carol, are you we the people also? Are you we the people? How about all the people in Chicago? Aren't they we the people? And they let a minority political party supremacy enslave them, because that's what communists do. They enslave and kill people because they got rid of all morality. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Are you part of the we the people? I'm part of the we the people. And that's why I filed notice of treason. I was waiting for other people to do it. All these years, 55 years. I didn't realize it was treason until a couple of years ago. I finally read Communism. I realized back in the 80s, that the two political parties were political crime families. They were criminal enterprises. That's what they are, criminal enterprises. We get into that deeply. We get into all of it. But you have to stand up. And you have to stand up. People you work for, by the way, at NBC, Universal, Corporation, our party press and media. Party press and media. They're violating the law, by the way. They're violating the law. They're violating the law. Had to switch to get another section. Principles of Communism, question 14. It's a main demand of communism. It's under section, what does this new social order have to be like? Isn't that interesting? You hear that all the time, don't you? This was written back in 1848. In fact, the abolition of private property, redistribution of wealth, forced loans, progressive taxation. Yeah. In fact, the abolition of private property is doubtless the shortest and most significant way to characterize the revolution in the whole social order, which has been made necessary by the development of industry, and for this reason is rightly advanced by the communists as their main demand. The abolition of private property. We the people. Political party supremacy. They control and own all the property, all the 1%ers and the people who make money off of that. Yeah. Carol, you're part of the we people. They're coming for your property. They're coming for your property. Your kids, your grandkids, your other loved ones you have, they're coming for their property. They're enslaving my 6 grandchildren. That pisses me off. That pisses me off. And that's why I filed a notice of treason. And we talked about this over and over and over and over. Question 18. What will the course of this revolution? What will be the course of this revolution? They have a couple paragraphs they talk about. It's like blah, blah, blah. Democracy. Yeah, democracy. They're pushing democracy. We're a compound republic. That's the originalist view. Federalist 51. James Madison. Yeah. Number 1 in this 13, they come up with 13 items. Number 1, limitation of private property through progressive taxation, heavy inheritance taxes, abolition of inheritance through collateral lines, brothers, nephews, etc., and forced loans, etc. Yeah. Redistribution of wealth. Forced loans. How much money is we the people indebted? They force loans on us. This president and this Congress and these courts have put us, enslaved us with forced loans. That's why I filed notice. That's why I filed notice. Where does James Madison get his 3 branches of government in Federalist 51? Where did he get that from? I just found this out from a gentleman I belonged to a religious group called Barnabas, and he told me about this. Isaiah 33, verse 22. For the Lord is our judge, the Lord is our lawgiver, the Lord is our king. It is he who saves us. Then I go into Romans 13. So we can talk about that. We can talk about that. Then the other section I want to talk about, and then we'll We'll maybe talk about this stuff later. Maybe you want to do it exclusive. It would be advisable for the sake of your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, nephews, your loved ones. We need to take our country back. We, the people, need to take our country back and get rid of political party supremacy, communism. Okay? Now, there's laws. 1909, treason, sedition, and subversive activities. Won't get into it big time. Won't get big in big time. That's 2381 is treason itself. Shall suffer death. That's how critical it is. And every state has treason laws. And I'll get into it. Illinois has a treason statute. A person owing allegiance to this state commits treason when he or she knowingly levies war against the state or adheres to the enemies of this state, giving them aid and comfort. Okay? No person may be convicted of treason except on the testimony of two witnesses of the same overt act or his confession in open court. Sentence. Treason is a Class X felony. Have to reinstate the death penalty. The crook Ryan got rid of that. Yeah. Maybe he was afraid he'd be filed with treason charges. He should have been. Every politician should be in the state of Illinois, in the United States. Every judge. Why? Misprision of treason. It's also 2382 of the federal. A person owing allegiance to the state commits mistreason when he conceals or withholds his knowledge that another has committed treason against the state. Sentence, misprision of treason, Class 4 felony. What's misprision? Neglect or wrongful performance of official duty. B. Concealment of treason or felony by one who's not a participant in the treason or felony. Now, I'm the only one that's filed a notice of treason. That means everybody else is concealing it? You're concealing it? Well, wait a minute. I'm telling you about it now. So if you don't do anything about it, then you're concealing it. Or you're part of the treason. Party press, party media. Democratic centralism, propaganda and agitation. These are guidelines of the Communist Party. That's what they're practicing. And C, seditious conduct against the government or courts. Advocating the overthrow of government. A person who advocates or with knowledge of contents knowingly publishes, sells, or distributes any document which advocates or knowledge of its purpose knowingly becomes a member of any organization which advocates the overthrow or reformation of existing form of government of this state by violence or unlawful means. Unlawful means, by the way, is not following your oath. Official misconduct is also state law. When was the last time a politician who does maladministration of duty, when was the last time they were tried for official misconduct? 7 years in jail, maximum. Removal from office. Don't you think maladministration? There is a 2012 law, Illinois law, Street Gang Terrorism Omnibus Act. They enforcing that? Gangs have been around since, the violent gangs been around since the 60s. We got Beyonce at the Super Bowl advocating the overthrow of government, talking upright about the Black Panthers. Yeah, walking around with the fist, the Lenin fist of violence. That's 2385, by the way, in the federal laws. Same thing. So we get federal and state. We do it state. State treason. One, they have a federal one, 2384. There's 2383, which is rebellion or insurrection. And I said the insurrection's been going on. I'm going to talk about Section 8 in a little bit. Section 8 a little bit. There's 2384, seditious conspiracy, or by force, and it's a big paragraph, but I'm going to read one that's pertinent. Or by force to prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law of the United States, or by force seize, make, or possess any property of the United States contrary to the authority therein, they shall each be fined, blah, blah, blah. Seditious conspiracy. Seditious conspiracy theory. They throw these out. Theory. That's the low language of communism. We get into that too. We have long conversations. It's been going on for a couple hundred years. It's treason. It's been going on for a couple hundred years. I'm going to make one comment, because this has not only involved treason in the United States, but involves treason in other countries. The British Commonwealth, they have a Treason Act of 1351. Involves the entire Commonwealth. It was Canada, Great Britain, Scotland, Australia. Has treason laws. The Democratic Party is involved in a political organization, an international organization of communists. They don't call it communist, it's called Progressive Alliance. They're involved with political parties in these countries. Yeah. Political parties in these countries, including Israel, Palestine. Yeah, they're playing both sides. The Israeli one is the Labor Party. Labor parties is all over, you know. Labor, workers of the world unite, insurrection. Palestine, or Israel, the Labor Party and the Meretz Party. They're involved in both of those. And in Palestine, there are Palestinian National Initiative, PNI, and the Fatah Party. And with that, I'll maybe give you a call, Carol. Direct message. And good day till the next time.